The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Giants baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm blessed to have not only the co-host of this show, Michael Duca, with us, but he brought his neighbor, who happens to be the co-host of the A's show on this very network, Jerry Feitelberg. So welcome, Jerry, to this part of the airwaves on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. I want to hear the dulcet tones of Michael Duca, who never...
Well, I don't know if they're dulcet, but they're here.
They're here. Definitely reminds me a little bit of Lon. Now, I'm not saying there was only one Lon, and the reason he comes to mind now is not only the sound of your voice, but you guys were neighbors in Alameda. Jerry
all three of us, all four of us.
Pardon?
All four
Lon, too.
Neighbors in Alameda.
Yes, that's right. Lon was that, and that's what I was going to say. I'm an Alamedan by choice, not necessarily by birth, of course. But and Lon lived out on Bay Farm Island for a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. As he and Jerry and I all lived in Harbor Bay Isle.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it's a beautiful part of Alameda.
It is indeed. Very few people know about it, but it's got one of the nicest parks. I raised my kid in Alameda, co-raised him, and would take him to the park by the school. As you go on to Bay Farm, if you go off to the right, there's a chip. I can't think of the name of the school, but it was so high-tech in the 90s.
Well, the name of the school has eluded you, as has the person that it's named after. It's Amelia Earhart.
Oh. Elementary, my dear Watson, elementary school that it was. Amelia Earhart, gone but not forgotten. And she might have just run off with the plumber or something like that.
Actually, I read a story in the New York Times about 4 weeks ago that, based on DNA evidence, they are about 99% sure that they have found her remains on a Pacific island.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I saw that too.
No missing plumbers then that were found.
Not even G. Gordon Liddy. He's not missing either.
The most devilish of the plumbers. The guy who admits on the radio that he married his woman so he could breed super children. He married this tremendously tall and athletic woman. Quite an era that we lived through back in the 70s with Mr. Nixon. And it all seems so tame now, doesn't it?
Sure does.
It seemed pretty rough then.
Right, that's right. Living through it was rough. And living through every era is rough on one level or another. The good old days were, you look back, you have to have selective memory to find the really good old days in any era. Difficult. Let's get on to a subject that isn't political eras. How about that? And we'll talk Giant baseball. Jerry joins us, and I'd like him to talk Giant baseball from the perspective of somewhat of an outsider. You're on the other side of the bay, following the A's very carefully. And what do you think of the Giants just off the top of your head from what you've seen?
Well, so far the Giants have surprised me. I think they're playing. Oh, they're probably playing about as well as they could. They're around 500. Their pitching rotation has been in the shambles. They're Samardzija and Madison Bumgarner were on the DL for a while. Bumgarner's still on the DL. Cueto pitched well, but now he's got an injury that might require Tommy John surgery, and everyone's really concerned about that. And the other guys in the rotation are going to have to step up if the Giants are going to have a successful season.
Is that possible, Michael Duca, for them at this point?
Of course,
for them to step up and losing Cueto, or is that the final nail in the coffin?
Well, no, it's no more the final nail in the coffin than losing Bumgarner was. You have to just kind of see how things play out. First of all, we don't know what Cueto's injury is yet. We know that the first opinion on it was significant enough that it was decided that since he was going to Atlanta on the plane anyway, he might as well take a couple of off days to pop over to Alabama and see James Andrews. James Andrews doesn't always tell you, hey, jump on the table, I'll cut right now. There are many times that he will tell people that they can rehab an injury. Either way, though, this doesn't sound like it's going away for at least 2 months, if not a year. But Bumgarner will be back soon. He's been cleared to begin throwing. As he told he's going to be ready before he's eligible to come off the DL. I can guarantee you that. By the time he's ready to come off the DL, I will predict that he will have thrown 6 or 7 innings in a minor league game. The rest of those guys, what can you say? I mean, if you look at the polyglot of pitchers that the Dodgers threw out there last year to win 100 games with, you probably wouldn't have guessed that would happen at the beginning of the year. You probably wouldn't have guessed that Rich Hill would be as successful as he was after so many years as a journeyman. But pitchers mature, and Chris Stratton seems to be ready to make his move. And I certainly like what I've seen from Andrew Suarez. He's, the players who had to hit off him in spring training were talking about how he had the filthiest slider they'd seen since Randy Johnson. And that's some pretty high praise from baseball players. But to be honest with you, I've been even more impressed with his changeup. He's got a Noah Lowry-like changeup. And if you combine those pitches and you can command those pitches and throw, 88, 89, you're going to win games in the major leagues. He can throw 91, 92. So,
people don't realize the difference between your off-speed pitch and your fastball. No matter what your fastball is, it's keeping the hitter off balance, as Warren Spahn would have said, were he alive today.
There's no better
pitcher could win with less than a dazzling fastball, but I think in today's day and age, scouts are just looking for that big guy who's 6'3", who could throw the ball against the wall or through a brick wall. And
of course they are. They always have, Ralph, because those guys are easier to project. It's easier to project a Randy Johnson or a Nolan Ryan than it is to project a Jamie Moyer. But Moyer pitched for 24 years.
Right.
Jim Cott pitched for 22 years. Greg Maddux threw 90 up, but 6 years into his career he couldn't 90 anymore. That didn't seem to slow him. Remember, the position is pitcher, not thrower.
Very astute observation, Michael. Excellent observation. And that's why you have guys that can throw, don't hit more than 89 on the speed gun, but get guys out because they can locate the ball and they can use their different pitches to fool the batter. And as Ralph said, that's the key.
Well, and I'll name you one, and you're going to laugh at me when I say this, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Pablo Sandoval make a spot start this year. He throws 88, 89, and has a curveball that comes in at 67 miles an hour. Is that enough speed difference for you, Ralph?
I saw that the inning that he pitched, and he just
you had to look fast.
Buckled.
He works fast.
He had guys buckling their knees at that curveball.
I mean, when he took the mound, I think the
definitely
Dodgers were laughing
help
at the
out
beginning.
in a blowout again. Could assure you that. And maybe
he had the Dodgers laughing at the beginning of that inning, but he didn't have them laughing at the end.
Right. Right.
And the beginning and end of that inning were only 4 minutes apart. He went through 3 hitters in 4 minutes. He went through the last 2 hitters in 1 minute and 9 seconds. He was averaging 7 seconds between pitches. He was, in short, the poster boy for pace of play.
Now, did he not come up as a catcher?
Yep.
Did he not start as a catcher?
He started as a catcher, and he was born a left-handed thrower, but his grandfather taught him to throw right-handed because he wanted to play shortstop.
Whoa.
So he's actually ambidextrous. He can throw 90 left-handed.
And he was taught to throw as almost like a second language type thing, and still made the majors as a third baseman. What kind of an arm do you have to have for that?
Well, you have to have pretty good arm to be a catcher. You've got to at least be able to throw 129 feet with accuracy. That's essentially the same throw as the other way across the diamond from third to first. He was a catcher through the minor leagues. He only started playing third base late in his minor league career, just before he was brought up to the Giants, because they kind of thought that they were kind of set for the future at catcher with this Buster kid.
Right, and right they were, for sure. He seems to get ripened with age. He's just as quick now. He chased a ball that went off a shin guard and the other day, and he had the same first step quickness as when he first came up. I was amazed by that.
His reactions
totally
are extraordinarily quick. Yeah, and the other thing that many people didn't notice, one of the beauties of the StatCast era, is that everything is measured. And there was in the come from behind win against San Diego on Monday night. Mm-hmm. Bochy faced a dilemma. Buster represented the tying run in that inning, and he singled. And Bochy had exactly one player left on the bench, Nick Hundley, and if he used Hundley to run for Buster, then he didn't have Hundley to hit for the pitcher 3 batters later or 2 batters later, whichever it turned out to be. I guess it was 3, because if I'm not mistaken, Brandon Belt hit a single to right center field after that, and Buster went first to third 2 miles an hour faster than he has ever run in the major leagues.
Really?
Showing you that he's got some reach back and burst speed. Yeah, his burst speed was something like 29 feet per second.
Now, they've got
the fastest he'd ever been recorded was 27.
Absolutely, almost everything. I'll start with Jerry on this one. What stat, a new age stat, do you like?
Well, I think the one that I like is WAR. That shows you how valuable the player is. It's one of the measures of how valuable. Then they have UZR for defense and those type of things. You try to measure the player's value. The old days we went by batting average and runs batted in, but and I'm sure Michael will remember that there are a lot of players that would hit 25 homers and have 100 RBIs during the season. That all the RBIs and homers came when the team was losing, and their team that they were on finished with a 60 and 102 record for the year. So
sounds like
you
Rob
have to be very, very
Dylan.
careful. Yeah.
Sounds like Rob Dylan.
Well, one of the guys that was like that got a lot of homers when the team was losing, to my way of thinking, was Ruben Sierra when he played with the Rangers and the A's. I didn't think he was that good a ball player, but what do I know?
Well, and true, false, or otherwise, I had a member of the Oakland Athletics front office who I was sitting with during a game say essentially the same thing of Carney Lansford. He came up with the bases loaded in a game that the A's had a 7-run lead, and he turned to me and he said, "Watch, he'll clear the bases here."
Right. So that happens. But if they were down by 3 runs and he came up with the bases loaded, you probably would strike out.
Well, he'd press. So I would say, actually I like WAR a lot also because it stopped the nonsense of people saying, oh, Babe Ruth was worth 25 wins a year to the Yankees, or Barry Bonds is worth 19 wins a year to the... No, he's not. Nobody is. But it put all that into perspective, and it let us actually see, even if those numbers are not fully accurate, even if they're not predictive of how many more games or victories a player contributes, their relativity has matter. And you can use them to compare players to each other from the same season because, within the same season, a player with a higher WAR is going to have produced more than a player with a lower WAR. My favorite stat, different from that one, among the new ones, is the mellifluously named BABIP, batting average on balls in play. That was the line that we used to always hear about guys like Mickey Mantle and Reggie Jackson. Mickey Mantle either walked or struck out for 4 complete seasons in his career.
Babe Ruth, too.
Yeah, and Barry Bonds, too, although most of his were walks and few of them were strikeouts. But if you look at what their batting average is when they put balls in play, that tells you an awful lot, I think. I think it certainly tells you more than their overall batting average does.
All right. Well, may I make an observation about the game? The physical skills, and I can say this because for a long time I was a radio guy only, and I'd go to my share of games, but you can't really tell by going to maybe 10 games a year or whatever, but the physical skills of players nowadays I've been watching a lot of TV, have improved tremendously. You're seeing plays at shortstop. The two that come to mind are this guy on Houston, Korea, and our own Crawford, making incredible plays and getting stuff deep in the hole, getting enough on the ball to throw a guy out. Double plays like I've never seen before. Second baseman turning him quicker than what I remember Mazeroski in his day. It's incredible, and that's just my observation. All the bad things people say about the development of the game, athletically, wow, nutrition, breeding, whatever, it's incredible, and I'd like to hear how you guys respond to that. Start with you, Jerry.
Well, I think the players are healthier today. They have better eating habits. They don't smoke cigarettes. A lot of them don't chew tobacco, and and alcohol use, I think, is down. Years ago, I remember as a kid, a lot of the players would show up to the game half in the bag. But today they don't seem to do that. Mantle, Martin, and Whitey Ford back in the heyday of the Yankees in the 50s, they would go out and party all night. I don't see the young players doing that. They're taking better care of their bodies. They're not drinking, they're not smoking, and they're in better condition. And they work out it all year round, and they show up, and their reflexes are great. We've talked about Matt Chapman at third base for the Athletics. He seems to have cat-like reflexes over third base, and his throws to first are strong. And I'm sure athletes you mentioned Crawford on the Giants. I thought when Barry Bonds was playing, he had his swing. He was so quick with the bat, and they're using a lighter bat than they did years ago. So those are some of the things that I think that have improved the players and why they do appear to be better. Some of these guys make fantastic catches out in the outfield. Now, the Giants have a guy who made the catch, I think, not only of the year, but in the last 10 years, last year in Boston, when he fell into the bullpen making that great catch in the game. And that's Austin Jackson. And I think Michael will agree with me on that. That was one of the best catches ever. So the players can do more. They cover more ground. You see the StatCast now. They'll tell you exactly he ran 83 feet to make the catch, and how fast they were running to make the catch. And it's just amazing to me to see these guys in action.
Well, I will agree with you that was a brilliant catch. I would also tell you that I think probably the best catch of the last 10 years was Gregor Blanco going 117 feet and laying out to preserve Matt Cain's perfect game, just for the effect that catch had on the game, not the aesthetics of the catch itself.
And I believe, isn't he left-handed, and the glove was in his right hand? He had the glove was in his right hand, and he was able to make the catch because of that.
Yeah, right. It would have had to have been a backhanded catch, left-handed.
Yeah.
I think, Ralph, to your point, that the genesis of all of this was Cal Ripken. I think Cal Ripken broke the mold. People thought that shortstops had to be 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", which is kind of silly because Pepper Martin was certainly bigger than that, and so was Luke Appling. But when you look at the influx of Latin shortstops starting in the 1950s, they were all lightly built. They were all pretty quick. They were all, with very quick reflexes, and they made the plays.
Chico, Carrasquel, all those guys that came up initially. You're right.
Right, but the key to that, the guy that you really want to remember there is Leo Cardenas, because Leo Cardenas set the record for the fewest errors in a season at shortstop when he was playing with the Angels. And a member of the Angels front office laughed and said, yeah, he also set the record for fewest chances attempted at shortstop that season, because he didn't get to very many balls. And it just stands to reason that if you're 6'4" with a 79-inch wingspan, you're going to get to more balls, and you're going to have more leverage, more arm of moment with your throwing arm to make more plays from the hole than if you're my size, 5'6", 5'7".
But, if you just look at the statistics of which shortstops get to the most balls, it could be that they're a little skewed because some pitching staffs are fly ball pitching staffs. Some pitching staffs are ground ball pitching staffs. So you may be
and some shortstops have more years of experience and know how to position themselves. And some pitching staffs are ground ball pitching staffs that know how to pitch to the side of the plate and induce the balls to be hit into the spray chart, and others aren't. There's so many variables here that it really isn't all that possible to pinpoint it. But what I can say is your statement about the athleticism of shortstops and the increase in number of plays being made, I think, is a direct result of baseball seeing the success that a big, strong, athletic shortstop like Cal Ripken had and got them to take chances on players like Corey Seager. 30 years ago, Corey Seager would have been converted to a third baseman.
Very good point. And another thing, poor Corey Seager's out with Tommy John surgery for the year. So
yeah,
injuries
he and Johnny Cueto may be playing a lot of gin rummy together.
Yes. May I ask you about Panic? How long is he going to be out, and do you think Tomlinson is going to be as adequate a fill-in as I do?
6 weeks. And defensively, he will approach Panic. I personally think I haven't seen a better fielding second baseman in the National League than Joe Panic. There are guys who have won Gold Gloves ahead of him. I think that's as much related to hitting as it is to fielding capability. He will not hit as well as Panic does, but he's faster.
He made a play in the outfield the other day. Well, you went, whoa, he's much faster than Panic or any other second baseman around. And
well, Alan Hansen's pretty fast.
Part of the genius of the Giants, they do go for depth.
Well, and Alan Hansen, who they brought up as their new Kelby Tomlinson, if you will, is either the fastest or second fastest player on that roster. So they're not giving up anything on speed when he's out there. But Tomlinson seems to have a nose for the ball and an instinct for the play. That was a ball that was hit high off the bricks by Eric Hosmer and should have been a triple, and Hosmer was sure he had a triple, and the look on his face when he was tagged out was absolutely priceless. And you're right.
I mean, he had to go 200 feet out to play the carom on that.
Or more. I mean, it was an astonishing play. If you look at your score sheet, how many times do you see a double fielded by the second baseman who then has a 4-6-5 put out at third? Never. I've never seen that before.
Right. And just the baseball instincts to start the jaunt out there long before it hit off the wall. He had to be prepared for that possibility, and you his head's in the game, and you can't put a statistical price tag on that, and you can't even take that to the negotiating table, and that in itself is what's wrong with baseball, if anything. But
while we're talking about the previous homestand, I just want to point out that two pieces of absolute history occurred there, and this is why you don't look at a schedule and say, "Oh, they're coming to town. I don't need to spend money to see them play." Against the Dodgers scored 15 runs in the one game that they won, and they never put up more than 3 in an inning. That had happened twice before in baseball history. The first time was in 1950 when the Cubs did it. The second time was 2 days earlier when Washington did it. So something that had happened once in 142 years happened twice in 72 hours at AT&T Park. Those were the only 2 games they lost on the homestand.
Whoa.
And that's the magic of baseball, Michael.
Until the third game that they lost, which also produced a piece of history, the San Diego Padres, in winning 3-2, became only the 22nd team since 1908 to send at least 30 players to the plate, win a game, and leave nobody on base.
Wow.
They made 27
Unbelievable.
outs and had 3 guys score, and that's it.
Well, there's an old adage in baseball.
Where did those stats come from? I'm sure Elias has something to do with that.
Well, the last one came from me because I spent 40 minutes looking it up on Baseball Reference. The first one definitely did come from Elias.
But isn't that the magic of baseball, Michael? And isn't that the old adage that when you go to a baseball game, you never know what you're going to see? You might see something that you've never seen before in a game. And
it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I mentioned to Charlie Steiner between games of the doubleheader that stat, and he said, "Well, that seems like a stat that would be more interesting to the Giants broadcasters than to us." I said, "Really, Charlie? Because what I'm talking about here is the absolute rarity of what's occurred, not what occurred, but the rarity of it." And he said, "Oh,
yeah.
Well, you're right. That is a good point. Once in 142 versus twice in 72 hours. That's a pretty wide spread.
Great insight. Thank you both, gentlemen. This was an excellent show. We'll be back next week, and thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you, Michael Duca. Thank you,
My
our
pleasure.
guest, Jerry Feitelberg.
Thank you, Ralph. And Michael, I'll see you next week.
Yes,
All right, guys. We'll talk soon. Adios.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.